This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Andrew and enter promo code Andrew at checkout. TextExpander helps you communicate smarter. Visit textexpander.com/podcast for 20% off your first year.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by my best friend, Paul Thurrott.
How are you?
How are you, Paul?
I'm pretty good.
We're best friends. Bestest of friends. Long week. I'm on vacation, as you can see. And I'm still working. I'm working my day job. I'm working this.
Have the Mets been statistically eliminated from the playoffs yet?
The Mets are actually in first place. And the Yankees are in first place. The Yankees and Mets are doing phenomenal. The Yankees are doing ridiculous.
Yep.
You might have some trouble with them in the in your division.
I'm not worried about the Yankees.
Okay, we'll see what happens. So apparently, almost every one of our clients, they're Yankee fans, and I've had to do a lot of research on the Yankees. So now that's all I talk about now is how great the Yankees are to people, and I'm a total fraud as a diehard Mets fan.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to take one for the team. And the team, by team, I mean your paycheck. So
yeah, that's usually the way you take it for the team. You know?
Yeah. We do have a lot to talk about. Terry Myerson's exit from Microsoft. Was this a surprise for you?
Yep.
We'll touch on that a little bit. As you see, I'm using my HP again here because my very reliable 2017 Mac is back at Apple. This would be the sixth. The sixth replacement of either the logic board or the actual laptop.
Most people would still give them high marks for customer service. I'm just saying.
Customer service, 100%. 100% customer service. Which I want to touch on that. And my continued usage of the S9 and how I'm starting to like things again.
Wow.
So that and a whole lot more. I know you have a couple things you want to touch on. New version of Windows coming. And when is it out? Like any day? New release?
Next week will be the beginning.
Yeah, a whole lot more, obviously. But before we do, guys, I do want to talk about a great sponsor of ours, and that's TextExpander. So right now, I'm actually struggling because I've started using the software for everything that I do for work and for my personal stuff. I literally put in everything that I do, like even when I tweet, I have like a 2-tag thing if it's like a repetitive thing. Like if I'm saying that we're going live. If you notice, I didn't put that we were going live today because Suncast did it. I don't have TextExpander installed on this machine. I have it on my Mac, and I use it almost every single day. But, if for personal usage, it's great. But it's also great for productivity for your team at work. TextExpander multiplies your team's productivity by making up-to-date shared knowledge available instantly to everyone who needs it. Using TextExpander, all your members can use just almost all the tools that you're doing. Accessibility, searchability, through simple abbreviations and keyboard shortcuts. So if you know that someone is a great writer, written and edited by the best writers, you could just have them type it up and everybody just puts in, let's say, BW for whatever reason. And there you go. It's filled in. It's available on iOS, on the Mac OS, Windows, and on the web. Updated immediately everywhere when modified. This is actually great if you're on a support or sales team, or if you're in legal, medical, or real estate. TextExpander will change your life. I'm telling you, it's made my life a lot easier with this, and it can make your life a lot easier too. Go to textexpander.com/podcast for 20% off your first year. This is a great company. I've been talking to Greg, one of the guys over there, and I use this almost every single day, and I praise him all the time on how great this software is and how it's made my life a lot easier. I don't have to worry about typing the same thing again. I don't have to, when I'm putting in data for clients, I just put in, a couple letters, and there you go. TextExpander.com/podcast for 20% off. Let's begin with Terry Myerson. I'm surprised by this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some points in time where I worried about him, the Skylake issues with Surface Pro 4 and the original Surface Book were kind of a low time, and I kind of wondered about that.
So, how much responsibility does Terry take over the Skylake issues?
I mean, I think ultimately he is responsible.
He's responsible.
That's his part of the company. That one is weird because at the time, and I had talked to Terry at the time, I talked to other people at Microsoft when that stuff was going on, and they very firmly blamed Intel. And the story since then has been a bit more nuanced. Now we know that Microsoft, in fact, was responsible for a big chunk of those problems, and it wasn't necessarily Intel, but whatever. So there was that kind of thing. There was a reliability issue with Windows 10 almost 2 years ago now when the anniversary update came out. And so in the fall of, I guess it would have been 2016, there were all kinds of issues with that update. Terry was tasked with making Windows updatable as a service and to make it, match into the rest of what Microsoft was doing. It's a daunting task for a legacy product like Windows.
Very.
And it didn't seem like it was going to be possible. By the way, I can hear background audio, like
you can?
people talking. Yeah.
You can hear people talking.
It almost sounds like there's another podcast being recorded in the next room and I can hear them whispering through the walls.
Is it us?
Yeah, maybe it is.
Sunk yes.
I can't hear it now.
Is it bad?
It's okay.
Okay.
It's only bad when we talk.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be us. I think it's like a weird, dull background echo. Hopefully it's not in the recording.
Yeah. No, it won't be in a recording.
But anywho, the timing of this, this was a surprise. I mean, it's right ahead of Microsoft's big developer show. This is where they're going to talk about the future. We've known for some time that Windows was being de-emphasized for Microsoft Cloud Future. We knew with this show in particular, in fact, that the cloud was going to take center stage at Build, and that Windows would be not an afterthought, but one of the, sub announcements, during the keynote, and that it wouldn't have its own keynote on a separate day or whatever. It was all being, all happening during one big keynote. So, we'll see. But the weird thing for me, I've gone through about 700 stages of grief, I guess. I've written a lot about it. It happened. The announcement happened at a terrible time for me because I was traveling last week, and I kind of go up and down on this. But the weird thing for me, and I still don't quite have a handle on this, is that I've been talking about Windows being de-emphasized for years now, and the reality of the situation, and where the PC market is headed, where the PC market is compared to other markets for personal computing devices, and yet for some reason, when something like this happens, not only was it surprising to me, but it also feels it also feels precisely kind of disappointing and deflating, in a way too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were going to continue. No, it is. It's interesting that it's happening now on the moment of a new release. And how long was Terry there total?
He was over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Started,
I mean,
I think an exchange, back in the 90s or whatever that was. Terry's, interesting. As a person, I mean, I like the guy a lot. I think he's a great guy. I've heard a lot of stories about him from people internally, and you don't get to that part of the company without being a political infighter and being that kind of person. And so there's that aspect of Terry, which I was never really exposed to, and that's in sharp contrast to his big predecessor, Steven Sinofsky, who was a complete dickhead in and out of the company. He was awful. And I got to witness firsthand what it was like to be his favorite child and what it was like to be scorned by him. So everyone who worked with him at Microsoft knows that experience. And it was interesting being on the outside and experiencing that as well. But with Terry, I never saw the bad part. So my interactions with him, he didn't always agree with me, of course, but I mean, they were positive. He was always very polite and very, he was just nice. He was a good guy. And I think unlike his predecessor, he understood the value of communicating effectively with the community. And he did, I think he did a good job at that.
Yeah. Do you expect more shakeups on this magnitude coming to the company at this level?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, having now talked to Microsoft, I've spent so much of the past week on the phone with Microsoft. With Microsoft, I mean, with people I know from Microsoft, either professionally or personally, mostly personally. And the expectation here is that nothing is sacred. Windows is so closely aligned with everyone's impression of Microsoft, no matter how inaccurate it is to hold that position today, because Windows is just some tiny percentage of its overall revenues, really.
It's
The
not really a
days where
Windows
Windows
company,
was the center of, no,
yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's not. It literally is not.
Your phone is telling you
So
it's not.
yeah. Sorry. I just got the new, I replaced my phone. So all my notifications are still running full force. It will take a little while. Um, yeah. So I think nothing is sacred. I don't think anything's off the table. Satya Nadella, we've known this from day one. He has gone to all of the major organizations at Windows and has required them to justify their existence. And you get a certain amount of time. And then if this thing's not making any sense, we're getting rid of it. And he's been very aggressive doing that kind of thing. Never more so than he just was with Windows, but there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do expect changes. I expect there to be layoffs this summer. I expect other changes organizationally. There is no, it's fascinating. No one representing Windows is on the senior leadership team at Microsoft.
That
No
says a
one
lot,
representing
right?
Windows, reports directly to Satya Nadella. Windows development itself is split now between two major parts of the company, and actually into 5 or 7 subgroups, depending on how you count it. And so I think there are going to be changes to Windows too, how it's developed, how the beta stuff works through the Insider program, how it's serviced over time, what the schedule is. I think everything is up for grabs at this point.
Yeah.
I
Positive
know
and
from,
negative, obviously.
yeah, there's been a bunch of stuff, that was going to be in the next release of Windows, not the one that's coming out next week, but the one that's coming out in the fall. That's already been canceled. There's already been the first round of, we're not doing that anymore. And I expect a lot more of that. There's a lot of kind of superfluous nonsense going on in Windows these days. And I think I hope we're going to see an end to that kind of thing.
Based on the email that Nadella sent out, the main purpose is that Microsoft is restructuring, and they've established 2 new divisions, right? It's the experiences and devices team, and then it's cloud and AI, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so where does Microsoft where does Windows fall?
Microsoft, where does it? Well, a little bit falls on each side. That's the thing. So one of the marching orders at Microsoft that's occurred over the past 6 months, and something that's been communicated down to the teams, and you've actually seen it in public missives from these teams, is AI. If you don't have an AI thing in your product, it's not going to make it at Microsoft. And so Office 365 is talking up the AI based capabilities that it has. If you think about something as simple as spell checking, you can make the argument that spell checking is a very basic form of AI.
Absolutely.
And that's going to go into the bullet list. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Windows is the platform that developers can use to put AI into their own products. They've already promoted it that way. HoloLens, which is I don't know, like a moonshot, bet on behalf of the company, is the guy who runs that part of the little teeny terrible part of the company, has already talked about future versions of HoloLens and AI. You're going to see AI mentioned in everything that Microsoft does. It sees this as a strength. It sees this as something that is marketable and will, help it with Wall Street, frankly, regardless of whether it's nonsense or real, you have to kind of talk up the AI-ness of your product or service or whatever. So we're going to see a ton of that at Build in about a month from now.
So who's taking his position?
Nobody.
No. So there's
nobody. There's nobody representing Windows.
That's crazy.
The core development of Windows is going back to what used to be the server team, which is now the Azure team.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Zander is the person most directly responsible for that aspect of Windows development. He is a class act and technical person and is the right person for that kind of thing. So that's great. On the experiences side, which is the UX, whatever, that's spread out between a lot of nonsense points. And some of it is core experiences. Joe Belfiore is a great guy, a good presenter. He's, still working on some of the core shell experiences. There are new experiences, which is kind of vague, but involves probably things like natural user interface interactions and new form factors and stuff like that. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, they're going to have future Surface branded devices that will always take, put Windows in the best possible light, yada yada yada, that kind of stuff. But I think that part of the company, the part that used to be Windows, the part that's still Windows, but it's not a part of the company, but Windows now scattered to the winds, is a small part of the company, relatively speaking. And they're going to invest in future updates and future versions and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is the focus of Microsoft has shifted very dramatically to the cloud in particular, or what Microsoft calls like intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. The intelligent cloud of it is simple. It's everything we just talked about: cloud, AI, Azure, whatever. The intelligent edge, though, today is in transition. There are PCs in there. There are phones that Microsoft doesn't make. There are other mobile devices, but increasingly, what it's going to be is these embedded sensors, IoT type devices. Right? It's going to be the future. It's this ambient computing thing I keep talking about. The future of Cortana and Echo and the Google Home and all those things, where instead of having this, you buy like a $100 speaker and you put it down on your kitchen counter. These things are going to be in the walls everywhere, and the light fixtures and the switches.
Yeah,
they're going to be on planes and cars. They're going to be at your workplace, public spaces, whatever, and you will interact with voice and other natural user interfaces, and it will know who you are. It will become more sophisticated, and this is how Microsoft gets past that mobile defeat. Right? They missed that generation. They won the PC generation. They utterly lost the mobile generation, but the next generation, the next wave,
AI.
I think is
yeah. Well, I mean,
stuff in it.
Well, here's the other thing. Panay is getting somewhat of a promotion, right? He's going to be the chief product officer.
I mean, if you look at what he's doing, honestly, it's basically
the
the same thing as before. Yeah. Right? He's reporting to a different person. The structure of Microsoft has never been right, and there are so many different ways to structure a company like Microsoft. Well, it's such a big company, and so the problem is you can kind of you can structure it by products, which is simple enough. Windows is here, Office is here, Server is here, whatever. But there's always crossover. Or I should say, you could also organize them by capability. But if you think about something like even Windows 10, for example, before Terry was gone, Windows 10 fell under more personal computing, which was kind of a bucket for everything that wasn't cloud, basically. And it was kind of a slapdash kind of organization of different parts. But Windows itself takes in things from other parts of the company that don't fall under more personal computing. So even though Microsoft only had a handful of major business units, Windows, or that business unit, had to rely on work from other parts of the company for things like Cortana, and Cortana is not part of Windows. I mean, it is part of Windows to the consumer, but organizationally, Microsoft is not. Yeah. And so when you look at the new structure, organizationally, it's still not. Of course, it's not. Why would it be? But Windows is now even more split up than before, and so that's the problem with Microsoft.
It's such a bureaucracy, huh?
So much stuff. Oh yeah, of course. It's
another
like the French
bureaucracy.
government over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this impacts them in the long run. We know that the Surface team has been doing great. I mean, great hardware coming out for the most part, right?
Well, I mean, great. I would say the way I would say it is their products are great. They are, behind in some ways with as far as technology generations. I mean, they're Thunderbolt 3 and the Intel stuff. They're just way behind.
Hey, listen,
I
have a Mac.
I
know. I have a Mac. I'm used to behind.
Yep. So you understand. Yeah. Well, that's who they're competing with. So maybe they're on track. So
listen, except for the beautiful HP that I have. Yeah.
The designs are great. I think you'll see more. They're going to be more mobile devices, more PCs, and
that's the other turn, right? If we're talking about mobile, you brought up the failure in mobile, how Microsoft over the last decade, 2007 on, obviously Windows Mobile existed, but 2007 on, 2008 on, when the iPhone really exploded and they had an opportunity to kind of come in very aggressively. They didn't take that stance. They waited, and it was too late, essentially, for the most part. But I mean, not because it's their fault, right? Not because it's their fault, because the market really shook up. It was a very disruptive product, and for most established.
The thing to remember.
Yeah.
I apologize. The iPhone disrupted everything, and I think the important thing for people to remember, because I've described this. I keep using this term now because I'm so proud of it. But the iPhone is the asteroid that killed the Windows dinosaur. Um, the iPhone is the asteroid that killed everything, right?
The
It's
PC,
bad enough that what's that?
the PC, you know?
No, I mean everything. So, for
Yeah,
example,
literally.
yeah, Microsoft, which was dominant because of the PC, had some kind of a mobile offering, and it did not do well compared to the iPhone. And that's bad on whatever level. But the truth is, you can't look at any smartphone maker or smartphone platform maker who did not get destroyed by the iPhone either. So is it worse that Microsoft didn't get the mobile wave? Or is it worse that RIM didn't get it, that Nokia didn't get it, that Motorola didn't get it, that Palm
Yeah.
didn't get it? You can go right down the list. The iPhone killed those companies.
And they were already
You
in
know,
the market. They were aggressively in
that's
the
what I mean.
market.
They're
Yeah.
they're competing directly,
Yeah.
and in two cases, RIM and RIM, BlackBerry, and Nokia, they were literally dominant, and they scoffed at the iPhone. You know, everyone pulls up this Steve Ballmer quote about the iPhone like it means anything, when in fact he was right about the iPhone when he said it. But what I think doesn't get enough press or enough coverage is the fact that the companies that dominated mobile were blown away by the iPhone. You know, the iPhone killed everything. It changed everything.
What
It
was
is
there?
what set the stage for this era we're now in.
Yeah, I don't know if I've asked you this question on the show.
Mhm.
God, my Queens is coming out today. I have no idea what it is. Did you hear? I didn't say
Yep.
ask. I didn't say ask. I said like ask. I put an F in the word ask. It's terrible
It's
today.
okay.
I don't know. It's terrible. Sorry. I try to hide it
It's
as
the
much as I
Mets
can
gear
on the
you're
show.
wearing.
It's the Mets gear. I know. You start
Yeah.
acting like trash when you wear that.
It's just like it's like a chemical in the shirt that's like
It
causing
just
me
seems
to talk like someone from Queens.
yeah. I don't know if I've asked you this in the past,
Mhm.
but what was the honest reaction? I mean, immediately when the iPhone came out, obviously people didn't know the extent of impact it would have on the market. I mean, some people were like, "Wow, this is revolutionary." And when I saw it, I wasn't one of those people. But by the iPhone 3GS, right? What I mean, were
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
I'm Nokia and all these companies. Obviously, you don't know every company, but we know that what
Well,
Palm's response was. But with Microsoft, what were they in the?
yeah, no, actually, honestly, all of these companies, all of them in their own way, did respond to the iPhone, right? After an initial period of disbelief and that this is going to go nowhere, they all responded in their own way. By the way, for whatever it's worth, I will never claim that I saw this as the death of the PC at the time, but I saw the importance of the iPhone. I mean, I used to get complaints that summer from, remember I was at the super site for Windows, and I wrote and wrote and wrote about the iPhone. I wrote a multi article review of the phone over the course of the summer, and people are like, if you love the iPhone so much, why don't you just call the site the super site for
Yeah.
iPhone? But I saw how important this thing was, and that first version was deeply flawed for sure, and it
Absolutely.
didn't respect the Microsoft technologies that were required for communication at the time, meaning active sync and exchange support. That just did not do that stuff, and
No
and
copy and
they
paste,
heard
Paul.
whatever. But the important stuff was, and then no app
Yeah.
store. And so, by the way, Apple fixed the problems, and I thought they moved very quickly for the day. And the iPhone 2 came, the second iPhone, second generation came out with the store and the app platform and business support, and they turned that around. So if you look at what the other companies did, there's only one company that moved very decisively. And interestingly, those guys are in first place right now. That's Google. Google had bought Android, was on the verge of releasing an Android platform that was based on phones with keyboards, with small screens. And they saw the iPhone with the full screen, the touch screen, and they said, you know what? We're starting over. We're doing that. And
Yeah.
they were the only ones that did it right away. Everyone else eventually got there.
Well, you know what I compare it to? The Kin. They were trying to release the Kin.
Well, okay, but
You know,
so,
you know what I mean? Like it was that kind of form factor. We got that Google concept, and it was, to me, it was the Kin. A couple years
you mean
too late.
Google was trying. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. I would put it more like it was the Treo or whatever. Like it was.
True. Yeah. Didn't they
so-
have like a round thing? They had like weird
It
things.
does.
But you're right. You
The
know, when you
specifics don't matter,
have when you have that immediate response, and it can
Yeah.
work for the positive and negative. Microsoft really didn't have at that moment. They had no response for this device. You know, when we talk about the death of the PC and the decline in the PC market, the PC's always here. The PC will always be here. I mean, by always, I mean, you know,
Yeah, just like a car crash. You
foreseeable,
can't get rid of it.
the foreseeable future. I've gotten 150. You know, people like to be
Sure.
very literal when I say it's always here. I'm not talking
Well,
100
listen,
years from now when
the
we're
way these
flying
things
in our
don't
jetpacks.
biodegrade in trash dumps, they will literally always be
They
here.
will literally always be here. But you know,
Well,
this
no,
is
look, like I said, every one of these companies responded in some way. I mean, you're not going to release something exactly like the iPhone in 2008. You know, to these days, you know, given the way things are, it might be a little faster to copy. You know, I'm not really sure, but none of these companies, you know, were equipped to respond to this thing very quickly. Um, and but they all did respond, right? I mean, Microsoft's first response was to put lipstick on the Windows Mobile pig, and they came up with, which, by the way, some innovations there too, whatever that's worth. The home screen and the lock screen on Windows Mobile 6X, and the
the
problem with that
honeycomb.
system was yeah, right. But they did something that, by the way, would still be useful. Actually, we have these today on. You'll appreciate this. You have a Samsung Galaxy S9. Your phone has something that I would say debuted first on Windows Mobile 6.1,
Oh, what is
which
that?
was the lock screen, where you can, in other words, imagine you have 4 icons on your lock screen. One says you got a missed call, one says you have a mixed text message, one says you have missed email, and one
Hmm.
says you have whatever, missed Skype. You can, on your Samsung, you can double tap on that thing, and then you can sign in, and it goes to that experience. That's super smart. Microsoft had that. That's it's still not a feature of Android. It's still not a feature of iOS. Microsoft had that in 2007 or 8. I don't remember. They gave up on
6.5,
it, by the
right?
way. They
Yeah.
stopped doing it. The
Yeah.
Windows Phone didn't have it, but Windows Mobile did. It was actually a good idea. I think you swiped on it. I think that's how it worked. But
I think it
it
was
was
in
a smart idea.
6.5, right? That would have been
Okay, it doesn't
08,
matter.
09. Yeah,
It
whatever,
doesn't
whatever it
matter.
was.
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying it happened back then. So you know, BlackBerry moved slowly into touch. Remember, they did, I think it was the Storm was like their one kind of touch model. It had like
Oh
a
boy.
haptic screen and blah, blah, blah. You know, Palm, well, they shipped a Windows Mobile thing to survive for a little while, but they went to
Free.
the WebOS Palm Pre, ran out of money. Motorola, well, Motorola eventually had the Droid. So Motorola bought themselves some time. They had the first truly viable Android phone, but that was after Google did Android. So, you know, that took some time. That was probably 2010-ish, somewhere around there.
2009.
By the time that thing, okay. They
Like an
all responded, I
encyclopedia.
guess. Yeah. Yeah. Nokia had some touch stuff, the N9 and, you know, whatever. And, you know, what, so eventually, you know, these platform makers all come to the same conclusion Google did. I think Google was aided by the fact that they weren't in the market yet, right? That's what enabled them to move more quickly. But they also made the decision just to do it. A lot of other companies might have just put out the first thing anyway and then said, well, we'll go back and fix it later. You know, Microsoft put out the Kin, which actually wasn't a terrible phone, but it was, you know, screwed up by Verizon mostly. Even though you know, the world was kind of moving to this other thing. And then they came out with Windows Phone, which had some good ideas, but remember, it was 2010.
Yeah.
It was 3 years later.
It's very interesting, you know, to kind of go back to Microsoft.
Mhm.
It's a very different Microsoft than 10 years ago, 100%. Even 5 years ago, very different.
Right.
When we saw Balmer stepping down, and then Satya taking over, and then the shakeups due to Windows 8 and the 2015 shakeup. I mean, this is a very responsive company, and they respond way more quickly than they previously did.
Yeah. My only, well, I guess this is true of a lot of companies. I was going to say my disappointment with them is that they're always responding. You know, they're never driving, you know, they're never driving the path forward. But you know what? We could say that about Apple too. And
Yeah.
Apple has built an amazing reputation for sitting on things and waiting and then delivering on it and just getting it right the first time. You know, even though they very rarely innovate in the sense that they come out first with something, right? Whether you're talking about these new form factors, tall and thin, bezel-less designs, whether you're talking about wireless charging, you know, there was a report this week that they're looking into curved screens, which Samsung has had for years and many others have had for years. They're talking about gestures where you don't touch the phone. Samsung had that in the Galaxy S4. I mean, how many years ago was that? The S4?
Yeah.
I mean, that was forever ago. And they're not. This isn't coming out this year or next year. It's coming out in like 2020, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they'll get it right. That's the difference.
they'll get it right. That's the thing. They will get it right. And so, Microsoft doesn't have that luxury or that advantage. They are often not leaders, and then they follow poorly. The Zune is a great example of that. They and it's actually an old example. Maybe they just they try. There's always some good. There's always a gem in there. The Zune had some good ideas. Windows Phone had some good ideas, but it's always kind of a too little, too late type thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are in the age of perception, right? It's all about perception. No matter how good of a product you put out, and listen, Apple puts out very good products, except for their new laptops,
Except for your MacBook.
which except for my MacBook, which I'll talk about. But it's all about perception. And in order to win, you don't have to be first. You don't have to be best. You just have to be perceived as a trendsetter and a market setter and whatever people want to perceive you as. I always say that. And Apple follows that model. Apple has created this unbelievable perception that they are the best of the best. They make the best phones, they make the best computers, they have the best operating system, and they have the best users. Everything that they put out, literally, I don't even have the headphones. They took their stupid headphone, their cheap headphone that they give away for free, they made it wireless, and they made people think that this is the best headphone to get right now. And you know what? They're being successful at it. Because I walk down Manhattan all the time, and that's all I see. I mean, every day I'm seeing these.
It's the modern version of the white earbuds. It's people think that they're cool because they're being seen using these things.
You know what? You know what? $149. That perception of you walking around with this thing and not having that cable, it's working. They have the best PR company behind them. They're public. They know how to market their products.
Yeah, they get the marketing right.
And Microsoft.
Look, they make great products. So the iPhone is arguably the best phone. The Samsung Galaxy S9 is fantastic as well. It's not like those are actually great devices too.
Even when they didn't make great products. Remember that side by side on how cool Apple was and how dorky Microsoft was?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
But
they weren't making great They weren't making great products then.
No, I know. Believe me, I'm well versed in the lies of that ad campaign.
Yeah, it was a total lie, but it worked. I remember. Sure. Listen, I'm talking about it right now. And how many years ago was that? 15 years ago? 12 years ago? You know what I mean? Like
they should bring it back. They got to have the Android guy and the iPhone guy. Yeah.
They
should find some new guy from SNL or whatever to play one of those characters. They could have.
Listen, Apple figured out. I do want to talk about Apple, and we praised them for a couple of weeks, but I'm gonna be honest with them about my hard time with Apple. Before we do, I want to talk about our great friends and our great sponsor, and that's Casper. I want to thank them for supporting the show. Casper, a sleep brand that continues to revolutionize its line of products and create an exceptional comfort sleep experience one night at a time. By the way, all this is, I'm reading this right now, 100% true, because I sleep on a Casper mattress every single night, and I've given you the spiel about my back problems. And listen, it's not a medical recommendation. This is just my recommendation. I absolutely love my Casper mattress, and I cannot see myself buying something else when I buy my next mattress. And this is, in wrestling, they call it a shoot. That I'm being honest. You can save an additional $50 towards a select mattress purchase by going to Casper.com/Andrew and entering the promo code Andrew at checkout. They have a great offer. You got a 100-day sleep guarantee. You can sleep on this thing risk-free, 100-day trial. If you like it, who makes a determination if this is the mattress for them by going into a big box store, sleeping, laying on it for 20 seconds and then getting up and saying this is the one. That's not a way to do things. You want to see if this is for you. 100-day risk-free trial. You also free shipping and free returns in the U.S. and Canada, which is great. And it's delivered to your door in a box. You got to see this thing. When I tell you it comes in a box, like honestly, it's not this big giant thing. It's actually unbelievable. You open it up, the thing expands, and it is a full mattress. I have a king-size mattress, and that's how I got it, which is great. Casper mattresses are also made in the USA. I love these guys, and I couldn't recommend them anymore. And by the way, guys, I love it when you guys tweet us when you make your Casper purchase. Keep doing it. Save an additional $50 off towards a select mattress purchase by going to Casper.com/Andrew and entering the code Andrew at checkout. Let's see. Do you want to talk about my Mac issues?
Yeah.
So let's give the tally here, okay? For my job, and people keep saying, like, why do you keep buying it? I was given this computer. Okay, I was given this computer. I didn't buy this computer. I mean, listen. By the way, this is my everyday use at home computer. I absolutely love it. I should be getting the new one actually. I got to talk to them. I got to message them. I absolutely love this laptop, and it brought my love for the PC again. Actually, for a Windows-based laptop. I was out of the environment for a little bit, and I absolutely love this. And you know, I made a joke the other day, and I think that's when my computer got mad at me, and that's why my Mac decided not to work anymore. And this is and Paul, you will get this. You will get this, okay? When I type on my MacBook, it sounds like the beginning of Hot for Teacher.
Yeah, the drum. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
I was sitting there. I was in
bed.
How
loud it is. It's honestly
disgusting.
The thing that freaks me out the most about that computer.
It's almost like a bar trick now with you. Every time you're around, like I take it out and it's me, you, Mary Jo Foley, Brad. I don't know why I always have to say Mary Jo Foley. It has to be the full name for her. Whenever we go out, it's like a bar trick. You're like, take it out. And I start doing it. And it literally, it's so loud.
It's the only thing you can hear in the loudness of a bar is somebody typing? What is that?
It's so loud. Crazy loud. So, I was laying in bed and I was having a glass of wine and I'm typing away. My wife has a 13-inch model of it, and we're both typing. Yeah. And we look at each other. We said, "Holy shit, it's so loud!" And she goes, "You know what it sounds like? Hot for Teacher." And I died. I'm like, "Oh my, that's exactly what it is."
Perfect.
It's so loud. So I made that joke, and the next morning I wake up, I flip the lid, and my screen gets possessed. And it's green and blue and this and that. And then all of a sudden I got these faint horizontal lines going across the panel. I go, I can't believe it. And I go, after everything I've gone through, and I mean, listen, you know me. I'm pretty responsible with my phones, with my laptop. I take care of my products. I'm not an animal. I don't throw this thing against the wall. I'm very careful with this stuff because you know what? Even though it's not my money, it's somebody's money, and this thing was $3,000 almost, this stupid laptop. So I've explained to you guys before, I had a 2016, for people just tuning in, I had a 2016, it died within 2 days, the logic board died, sent it back, went back in, they gave me a new one, brand new, within 3 weeks, the left speaker went out, went back in, they handed me another one, I started getting kernel panics, they replaced the logic board, gave it back to me, continued with the kernel panics, went back, they gave me a 2017 model, and after 7 months of having a 2017 model, the display failed. So, this is a problem, okay? I cannot be the only one. I'm very responsible with my products. And listen, if I was one of these people that like throws it in his bag and goes around and, you know, I would say, okay, it's me. But I've had laptops my whole life, you know, my whole adult life. I've traveled with them. I've gone here. I've done way worse to computers than I have to this one. There is no excuse for someone to have 6 replacements in 1 year of a premium product.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So, you know, listen, and people keep saying, why do you keep going back? I'm going back because I need to use this for work. This is what they provided me with. I can't go to my employer and say, hey, man, this isn't working. I need a new one after spending, you know, $2,800 or whatever we spent on this thing. So I cannot recommend these products. I really can't. And by the way, Jess already has had 1 replacement on her 2013. I brought it up last week. I brought in.
How old is mine?
Here's my theory with this, okay?
That I don't think I have problems with.
No, I think because it's not the touch bar thing, right? Here's my theory with this. There is a habitual problem with this lineup. And so little people are buying these laptops, you don't hear about it. That is why you're not having mass outrage over the fact that, and by the way, I went online, I saw there are tremendous display issues with this thing, display failures. There's a touchpad problem where the touchpad is not responsive anymore. There is a touch bar issue where it just dies. I hear about display constant, but it's so I mean, by constant, I mean like a 4-page thread on an Apple forum.
When you can't trust something like this, it becomes a huge problem. You know, when I do a home swap in the summer, and I'm going to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, I always bring at least 2 computers. And it's not because the main computer I might want to use I don't trust, but it is because I don't trust, right? It's not like, in other words, I don't always take the one untrustworthy one, but I'm always worried about that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
but when I travel, for work, I mean, you bring a computer. You just don't, I've
Uh,
never, I don't think I've ever had one totally fail on me in the middle of a trip, but this computer, you could get a crumb under the key and you can't type.
so here is. Oh, by the way, yeah, she also has that problem. Her shift key's gone, and her backspace or delete, I can't remember. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's totally flat. And this is after getting it. So here's what I'm gonna say. I was reached out by somebody that works for them,
Right.
and he wrote everything you said. Yup. And I said, "Is there a problem?" He goes, "Not officially."
Yep. Yeah.
There is, and
They
listen,
pushed too hard on this thin thing. The no travel keys and the no travel touchpad are so unimportant to, are just pointless. Like, it's just pointless. They made good
yeah.
keyboards before, good trackpads.
They have a beautiful beautiful laptop. I mean, I have a 2015 that I had a little issue, so I took it to get it fixed. But that was a mistake of mine, actually
Sure.
my kid. But I never had these problems prior to this new model. I mean, I've had a Mac laptop for 11 years. I never had little issues here and there, but that's fine. That's with any kind of product. Nothing to go to Apple 6 times. And my thing is, if this is happening on their premium lineup, right? If this is because this was the first major design change in a product like this that Apple did. This is gonna if they don't, I guess the MacBook, right? The MacBook is one, and then it was the MacBook Pro. Yeah, major design change.
I mean, I'm not an expert in MacBooks, but I mean, I would say there are probably only 2 or 3 major generations of these devices. But this thing where they've gone to this super thin design, on the little MacBook, obviously they have the really crappy low end chips, so there's a performance problem. They have the first generation had the really bad keyboards. I mean, they're a little bit better now, I guess. But I think you really run into problems when you put that much horsepower inside there, and then you've got the thermal issues to to deal with as well.
So one of the things that was said to me by this friend of mine, he said, "Look at it this way, okay?" He goes, "If you treat your MacBook Pro like an iMac, you will not have any of these issues."
What does that mean?
Don't freaking move it anywhere. Let it sit on the desk, and you will not have any of these issues.
Keyboard and mouse.
Yeah. They, this lead-free solder that they're using is causing some issues. It doesn't do well in the cold anymore. That's another thing. If you're in a cold climate, you're gonna because the solder points aren't holding.
It's designed in California.
It is, yeah. And it's gotten so bad that people are putting their MacBooks, taking the logic boards out, putting it in the oven, and then putting it back in to reset the solder points. That, I'm going to tell you, it doesn't sound...
not a lot of good vibes there.
Not a lot of good vibes. And listen, man, there are people, I'm sure someone's going to message me and tell me they have a 2016 model and 2017 model and they have no problems and everything's fine.
Can't complain about anything without hearing from someone who's never had any problems with the exact same.
And that's fine. But for someone that is a power user not this device, but for the MacBook, to experience this many problems, there is in my opinion, there is some sort of fundamental problem with the overall design and the manufacturing of this thing. Will it be addressed in the next generation? I don't know. Who knows? But the other fear is if it's happening on this premium lineup, and this is the last radical change that you've done, when you redesign all the other ones, how is this problem going to seep over if you are not acknowledging it? And then Paul, we don't get figures from them. We don't see sales figures on these MacBook Pros. I'm telling you right now, I don't think, and you never will, I think it is a small fraction of sales. I don't think it's a top seller.
I think that their top seller is probably the MacBook Air. I think that's the only explanation for why that thing is still around.
Yeah.
And it kind of begs the question why they don't just make a couple of minor design tweaks to the thing to make it more modern. But Apple,
Yeah. Well, and at this point, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they shouldn't. I
yeah,
mean, but you're absolutely right. I do think it's a MacBook Air. I think the MacBook Air is the one that's selling for them. And maybe the MacBook,
yeah.
because it's
There's
cute.
always some, there's always some mix of old and new in all of Apple's products. And I'm sure on the iPhone, it's more of a mix of, there's probably more of the newer devices near the top of the range. But
Yeah.
I think on the Mac, especially in the portable Mac, it's the older stuff.
Yeah. I took a couple of products to a guy that does soldering. I have a camera here that lost a point, so I took that, and I took a couple things. And we were talking about, I became friends with him, and I'll give him a little plug in the show notes. I forgot the name of the actual company though. It's like he's here in Bayside. It's called like Tech Guru or something. His name is Mike, and he was telling me, he's like, listen, I won't even look at those laptops, those new models. He goes, I do like crazy soldering, like
Yeah.
like he has all the machines, he cleans out stuff. He goes, I won't even touch them because it is such a nightmare to work on these. They've created this unrepairable device.
Right.
Right. That's the way to do it. You control the market and you do it that way, but this is the cost now. So, luckily for Apple, a lot of people don't buy their laptops, and they won't have mass failures on the market like if it was a Samsung or an HP.
I would love
Dell.
for Consumer Reports to get ahead of this because, they went after Microsoft really hard, obviously. The timing on it was such that it kind of happened a year after the unreliable stuff was happening. So, maybe in the coming year, they're going to start dinging Apple as well for the same reason. If people would just be honest when they send in those surveys, I think, we might see something very different from the grades they get now.
It depends. I mean, that's relative, right? How do you honestly say something is bad when they hand you a new one every time you walk in and you got a new product? People look at that as like as a bonus.
Bad.
Yeah.
But something went wrong.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to
it that way.
replace your device under warranty? If there is like a huge percentage of people that say yes to that question, something is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's fascinating. Onto Android. So yesterday, I started. It was such a very strong response from the Android people on my disdain for this phone.
Right.
And I was like, started asking, like, some people are like, you're an effing idiot, Android is great, which I didn't even respond to that. Because there's no argument there, right? You can't. But there were other people that reached out and they're like, this and this is why I use it. And I started talking to them, right? And there are two things that I've learned. One, the people that use the overall Google UI, right? Clean Android, have the best experience. There are other ones that put the launchers. Everybody's changing their launcher. Everybody's using and I asked a question, Nova launcher, the Microsoft launcher, the Google launcher, everybody's using some sort of launcher. And I started thinking, is that the proper way to use this phone? Like if I buy a Samsung phone and I have to modify the launcher to get the experience that I want, or I need to modify the icons to the way that I want it to, that is not the same thought process as iOS people, right? Because they just use what they use and they have one launcher and they have one icon pack and that is it. That's all they do. Is there, for me, maybe that's what I want, but I couldn't understand how, again, it's the same thing. How do you say that it's a great product and a great line if you have to modify so much for it to work?
I think the response to that would be the fact that I can change it is what makes it great.
Yeah. So I'm changing stuff. I started doing that this week to better understand. By the way, I was a person that would update my ROMs on my Android phone. And I love doing that. I loved, ROM releases for certain phones when I had my, even with like the Google Nexus, the original Nexus, I would do stuff.
I'm so tired of screwing around with stuff.
I think
EV launcher.
I think we're getting old. I think that's what it is.
Okay, but maybe there's a maturity in saying, I'm just using this to get something done. The point of me using this isn't to frig with it all day long. Like,
listen, man, I just want to get by in life. I just want to get my day. I just want to get by in my day.
Well, I guess, I mean, I spend time experimenting with things, in part because it's my job or whatever, but in part because I'm always looking for better tools to do something. So I've spent a lot of time recently looking at free alternatives to Photoshop Elements, and they all fall apart in some way for me. But I do this from time to time, and it's I look at Markdown editors a lot, but eventually, you just got to do the thing. You're not,
Yeah.
I'm not here to screw around with it. I'm here to actually get the work done, which in my case
Yeah.
means writing and then image editing. And so, like what you just said, I mean, I prefer the Google launcher personally. I like that clean Android experience. If I was going to use a Samsung Galaxy S9, I probably would put the Google launcher on it.
You probably would.
I think I probably would. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm experimenting now. I started yesterday and then I got busy with the kids and I just put it down. But
I'm not opposed to the Samsung ones. It's okay. It's fine. It's workable.
But here's the thing. My negativity on Android really started when I started buying the Samsung products. I didn't feel this way with my LG. I didn't feel this way with my Nexus. So I'm starting to think maybe,
geez, dude. It's like I don't like Germany because I bought an Audi.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, all German cars are terrible now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a work in progress. Especially when you're used to one environment. But when you're in one ecosystem, it's a very hard change. And then there was another argument where someone wrote, he goes, "Listen, my mom uses an Android phone. My this uses an Android phone. That uses an Android phone." And I asked, what was their reasoning to purchase this? Was it cost? And then I got like a nasty answer. It's like, yeah, unlike you, for most people, it's a cost issue. I'm like, okay, you're already going into it with this. You have already this preconceived concept of my thought process and how I think. So arguments.
You do live in a shiny castle on a hill.
I apparently do. That's why I have 2 gigs and I buy a phone once every 2 years. So I think it's interesting. People's issues and preconceived concepts of your thought process really come into play when making. My whole thing is, man, use whatever you want. If it's easy for you, you use it for you. That's the way to do it. I'm a big Windows.
Has their own criteria.
Listen, I love Windows Phone. I absolutely love Windows Phone, but it doesn't serve my need. Every time I used it was fine, but it was the lack of apps more than anything else.
Windows Phone doesn't stand the test of time. I went back and fired up a couple of the ones I still have left, like that HP phone, and I don't feel any remorse about this at all. Like when I look at Amiga stuff, I feel bad about that. I mean, I feel like that should have been what happened.
Just let it go, Paul.
When I look at Windows Phone, I'm like, like whatever. God, by the time they hit Windows Mobile, it was like,
yeah, it's I think right now we're in this pivotal moment where we're back to, it's no longer Mac versus Windows. It's Android versus iOS, and it's whatever works for you. If you want to change your launcher 15 times and you want to use 10 different email clients and you want to use different messengers, that's great. You have the option to do it. That's amazing.
I mean, you can make good cases for either platform. It's fine.
I just, I don't want things crashing. I don't have the, people say like, well, iOS has issues. Yeah, of course it does. Everything has issues. But my day-to-day on my iPhone is a lot easier than my day-to-day on my.
If you just want to get in and out and go to work and make things work, iOS is going to be better.
Like right now, I'm in the market for a new car because my lease is ending. And
so they make an iOS car.
I want an iOS car, and and it flies apparently. But there are two things that I really want. I have to make sure that the car has CarPlay and the Apple Auto, Google Auto, and the CarPlay. I want that.
Yep.
Those are two things that I really want because I want to. I'm a techie, and I want those things. But I have to tell you something now. When is the last time you went car shopping? I'll save it for next week.
It was last.
For a new car.
Last year. Well, we bought my wife's car.
Yeah.
Which was not a brand new car. It was a used car, but we were,
So, because I'm leasing Jess's car, I'm like, my car, for example, is 15 years old. I drive it every day, and it's the best car that I've ever had. I get the lease for Jess because I want something new for the kids and, whatever. And I want something new in general. I have to tell you, cars suck. Everybody's getting something wrong Nobody has like the total package. I went to the auto show yesterday with my dad, and I sat in like all these SUVs because she wants an SUV, and I'm like, ugh, every single one. I sit in. You know what was my favorite? The Jeep Grand Cherokee. The Summit was my favorite car. Out of all the ones I sat in the Porsche. I sat in it because it was the most practical that worked for me. The touchscreen sucks on one. Like Ford has great stuff with their new with their Sync 3. It's great. I sat in the Explorer. It was really nice.
Our rental car had Sync over the weekend.
It's great,
it was
right?
kind of interesting. The car was terrible, but the Sync thing worked fine.
What was it? A Taurus?
It was a
Fusion?
Focus.
Oh, Focus.
Focus.
Yeah.
Which apparently is the new Fiesta now. I don't know what happened to this car, but it's or Festiva, whatever they called it.
Whatever they call it. Yeah. It was bad, huh?
A piece of the car fell off. We brought it back. And they were like, what happened here? And we're like, I don't know. You gave us a car and a piece of the car fell off. We didn't hit anything. It just fell off.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
That's awesome. So I'm shopping and my wife and I, because we don't want to spend a lot of money. We don't want to get an Audi. We don't want to, we don't want to get like, we saw the Volvo, the new XC90. It's beautiful, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money. Stunning. Yeah. But everything is plastic. Everything is, there was a charger. I saw, like, I was a couple months ago, I was looking at getting myself something, for my pre-midlife crisis. And I was looking at the Challenger, big V8.
That's a terrible car.
Because I want to be, of course it is. So I went and I kid you not, I'm on the showroom and someone's going to email me and tell me there was a showroom car. I'm on the showroom. I pull the handle and the handle is a plastic cover on the actual door handle. The thing just fell off. And I go, nope. And I handed it back to Dale. I go, see you later. Walk right out. He was looking at me like he didn't even know what it was.
We rented a Ford Mustang convertible when we were in Hawaii. And I said, the thing I appreciate most about this car is now I know I don't ever want one of these.
Jeez. It's terrible. I mean, listen, everybody's cutting costs and they're terrible. So anyway, I know you have to go to a meeting. Next week we're back on Tuesday, or can you do a show Monday, Paul? No, okay. We're back on Tuesday. We're back on Tuesday next week, and we'll do our bonus show next week, and we'll go back to our regular schedule. For all things Paul, go to Thurrott.com. Go check out the website, gfknetwork.com. Subscribe to us wherever our podcasts are available, and I had a lot of fun today. So you guys have fun too today. It's 2 o'clock here on the East Coast. While we're recording this, go have a drink. End your day. Tell your boss you're done. Go start drinking.
I'm gonna go see how that goes.
If you listen to this on the podcast, go send me a couple pictures of you drinking. Makes me happy when you guys drink as much as I do, which is a lot. All right, I'll see you guys. Take care.